Welcome to the Me and Money podcast, where your hosts and certified financial planners, Matt Fizell and Elliott Appel, share their thoughts on hot topics, important concepts, and real-life stories in personal finance. Hear from Matt and Elliott as they share lessons learned in their own financial journeys and those they've witnessed throughout their careers while helping clients. Have a question you'd like to hear discussed on a future episode of the podcast? You can reach out to Matt or Elliott or drop your question at the link listed in the show notes. Before we get to the episode, we'd like to remind you that while both Matt and Elliott are financial planners, they are not your financial planner, and this podcast is only intended for educational purposes. For full disclosures, please be sure to listen to the end of the episode or check out the show notes on your favorite podcast platform. Now, on to the show with your hosts, Matt Fizell and Elliott Appel.
Welcome back to another episode in the Me and Money Estate Planning mini-series. We're going to keep this one a little bit shorter, so if you just got caught up on the wills episode and you're feeling a little tired, we're going to make this one a little easier. So we're going to split this and healthcare power of attorney up into two separate episodes. But Elliott, before we get into that, how's it going today? And what are you most excited to talk about in today's episode?
I am most excited to talk about the idea of springing versus effective immediately for the DPOA for finances. This is my favorite. I know this sounds weird, but this is my favorite estate planning document by far.
Wow.
And as you talked about, wills and trusts, you can get as complex as you want. These tend to be the menu is a short range. It's almost like we're going towards a pre-done dinner, and you just sort of select, do you want chicken, beef, or vegetarian? And then go from there. You can customize a little bit, but it's a lot easier to understand and talk about.
Wow. I had no idea this was your favorite estate planning document. And I don't know if I've ever asked that question to anyone before. So now I got a new one in my belt. So
yeah, most probably don't. But this is my favorite because I think a lot of people, they get done talking to an attorney or they have some documents that they haven't reviewed for a while, and they don't know how this actually works in the real world. And I like to talk about that a lot. Is there's the legal world of what we write down on paper, but how does it actually function when we get out to the wild, wild west? Does it work well? Does it work as we intended? We don't know. So I just, high level, DPOA for finances, what happens when you can't manage your financial affairs? Who are you naming? And more importantly, what powers are you giving them? That is really what this document is doing. And this idea of springing or effective immediately, very simply, if you sign it and it says effective immediately, the people you name or the person you name can start helping you with your finances. That might be paying bills. That could be as extreme as taking money out of a bank account for you or transferring accounts to a different financial institution. Springing springs into power when certain things happen. And that can be written a few different ways. But the way you typically see it written is your primary physician says you're incapacitated, or two physicians say that you're incapacitated. Now, the issue that I see a lot of times with the springing is it's not a bright line test. Most people, it's not, hey, I'm good one day, and now I'm in a hospital bed, and it becomes very clear, I've had a stroke, I can't do anything. That's simple, but that's not the reality for most people. Most people, there's some sort of cognitive impairment, there's a decline, there's something like that where, you had talked about this, Matt. Your dad, he just needs help with his financial affairs. He still has capacity, but you've stepped in to help him during those certain things. And I noticed that with my dad prior to him passing away too. There's plenty of things he couldn't do, but for a lot of doctors, he still had capacity. Now, I could argue he didn't really have capacity many times. But I think that's really important to keep in mind that it's not a black and white sort of situation. It's gray. And that's why I'm a big proponent of effective immediately, that if you like this person that you're naming as your agent and you trust them, why would you not trust them while you're still capable? We're only trusting them when we're incapacitated? That doesn't make sense to me. We need to rethink who we're naming here in these situations. So I think that's one thing to consider. I'll shut up for a second, Matt, because that was me a lot of talking. I'm obviously passionate about this, but what do you have to add, subtract? Go for it.
Well, I don't know if I can bring as much enthusiasm to this topic since I don't know what my favorite estate planning document is, but yeah, I think too, a really big thing, Elliott, you did a great job there of the high view, the concept or what this thing does. But I think you can implement this in a few different ways. Like you mentioned, because I shared last episode or a couple episodes back that, I am this for my dad. Like, I have the authority to do that, but I really haven't had to do much. I'm there more as like, I like to joke, I'm like the two-factor authentication code. Like, I can have access if I want to. I try to keep myself as far removed as I possibly can. But when things aren't making sense to me, then I can call the bank and be like, hey, I'm hearing this. Like, is there anything we need to do? Like, the answer is usually no. So then we're good. Like, we just go on as we normally were, right? Or he's terrible at his online passwords and things like that. So like, it's just gotten to the point where it's easier for me to do some of that stuff for him. But like, then if I get locked out, like I can't rely on him to do it. So it's just like easier for me to circumvent him. So again, you don't have to think of this as like totally like giving up the keys to the vault, so to speak. But I think you can have some really good conversations with whoever you want in this role, or perhaps you're in this role with your parents, or someone else that you care for. And I think there's a very much a spectrum of how you can actually implement it. It doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's the beauty of the effective immediately. So I know with my dad, I had it for years and didn't do anything. But then a box of bills shows up that's unpaid one day that we discover. I can now pay those and contact those people. Or my dad's overdrafting because he's not transferring money to his checking account. I can now transfer money there. So it's just another layer of security or a safety net, assuming you have a trusted and confident person doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, like, I'm not trying to say the way I'm doing it is the best, but I think it's a lot more likely to actually happen if it's more of a gradual transfer of power versus like
100%
all or nothing. Like, that is such a independence remover. Whereas like the way I've kind of structured it with my dad is like, I'm more of an available delegate, so to speak. Like, oh, I don't know what this is. So like, can you do it? And sure, like, I'll do it. Like, not a big deal. But yeah, I think that's a really good point, Elliott.
Yeah. Should we talk a little bit about sort of the powers that you can name in these documents and what we see and don't see sometimes?
Yeah. I mean, you can really be like as specific or unspecific as you want in terms of like how you grant this. Like, there's almost every state form that I've come across. We'll come back to that in a second, but you know, there's like this checklist of things. So like real estate, I think most of them go as far to say like bonds versus stocks or digital assets or, you know, things like that. Retirement accounts, you can initial whatever you want on that form to give access to. And again, I think that's the beauty, you know, shall we say like, wow, like a free government form actually got something right for a change. But, you know, you can update that at any time. So if today you just want to give access to cash and I don't know, maybe, I don't know why you'd want to give access necessarily to your house, but let's just say cash in the house, but no retirement accounts or anything like that. You can be that specific and you can just give access to those things if those are the areas that you're having trouble in, or those are the areas that you want someone to help you with. Like, I think that's a really nice thing that not a lot of people know. Like, they think it's this, again, all or nothing power. What's something you would add, Elliott?
I would just say I'm a big proponent of what I would call kitchen sink powers. Kitces has a good article about this if you research it, and it's one of the few that I take an industry publication and actually suggest people read that aren't part of the industry. So if you search Kitces kitchen sink DPOA powers, it should probably be the first link out there. Maybe we'll drop in the show notes as well. But I like that because you never know what sort of power your agent's going to need. It might be something really simple or it might be something more complex. So something that I often talk with clients about is, can you change beneficiaries? That's a big one. And that seems like one that a lot of people don't want to give. The difficulty I've run into this in the real world is, let's say you have your assets spread out everywhere and you haven't done a good job consolidating them, and your agent takes over and wants to simplify life and they want to open new accounts and just add beneficiaries that match your beneficiaries to other accounts. Well, if you don't name in your DPOA that they can change beneficiaries, they may not actually be able to apply any beneficiaries to the account, even if they match what's at the other financial institution.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something where it sounds intuitive, like I don't want them to change my beneficiaries, but now we can't open new accounts and consolidate them.
Yeah. I actually have a real world situation of that. I didn't see the power of attorney, but when my uncle passed away last year, they had put his son on the car title, but they forgot to add his name to the loan. So he couldn't pay off the loan. And then they repoed the car.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that. Again, you don't think about it until you can't do anything about it,
Yeah. So beneficiaries are a big one, making gifts that are consistent with your existing giving. So if you've been giving to charities or you've been giving to your nephews or nieces or grandchild, and you've been doing that, and maybe you live in a state with an estate tax exemption amount that's pretty low, and maybe you're getting near the end of life, maybe your agent's trying to push money out of your estate to get below that or to reduce the amount that goes to the government at death, that can be helpful. But if you don't specifically outline what sort of gifts can be made, they may not have that option to do that. Same thing with digital assets. That's becoming more and more relevant. Of people have books that they've created or online content. Crypto may even fall into that. I'm not quite sure, but what are the digital assets that you own? Maybe it's just photos online somewhere. If it doesn't specifically name that, your agent may not be able to deal with that company and deal with those assets, which can be a challenge because they can be revenue producing or they can just be a memory type thing.
Yeah, that or even getting access to a social media account or something like that. My LinkedIn a couple of years back got hacked and I had to go get it notarized. I had to go get a notary to sign off to verify with LinkedIn that I was me. Good luck getting that if you don't own the account, right? But yeah, that's a good one. And I've actually never run into this, Elliott, but I would assume you still need that for a tax return to be filed, right?
So tax returns are their own deal. So
Okay.
The government has their own forms. They don't really accept DPOA for finances. They have specific forms and each organization is a little bit different. We shouldn't even go there today. All that to say that if you're part of the VA system, IRS, whatever, they're going to have their own forms and good luck navigating that. We could do a whole episode and nuances within that one.
Death and taxes, we'll avoid those in the same episode. So best of luck to all of you listeners. No, I'm joking. We'll look into it. But yeah, I guess I'd turn it to you. Anything else you want to touch on for this episode?
Everybody feels differently about this depending on how much power they want to give to a person. But let's say you do an effective immediately. I tend to like to give that person that document so they're prepared with it. So if something does happen, they're not trying to go through your house and being like, hey, where on the bookshelf is it? Is it in the safe? Is it somewhere else? I know other people who I don't want my person to have that, but I'll tell them where in the house it's located. So if something does happen to me, all they need to do is gain access to the house and then go apply that. So there's different ways to handle that. The last thing I would say is these tend to take time and are hard to get set up at financial institutions. So you think, hey, I went to the attorney, I went through all these steps, I paid this money, or I did my state form and I researched it. And now I go actually, my agent tries to apply this to the account. Sometimes it doesn't match exactly what their legal department wants, in which case you might have to have an attorney sue them for it to apply. Or if your person still has capacity, you might want to consider using their specific form. So oftentimes financial institutions have their specific DPOA form. And sometimes that's the route we go because that's just an easier thing. We know that's going to be accepted. You just want to make sure that's not running counter to anything that you've done with your own DPOA. So for example, if their DPOA allows you to do all these things and you limited it, you may not want to do their form. You may want to keep with that. So it's complicated out there. All that to say, it's not an instantaneous, I go take this to the bank and I'm on the account the same day. It's usually goes to a special department and takes time. So I just want to set that expectation for people out there listening.
Yeah, some institutions too will allow you to do a limited power of attorney as well. Or some, I had this with my grandma, they're like, no, we don't do that. You can be a joint account owner with her. Oh, well, we didn't really want to do that. So that's a bridge to be crossed later, I guess. But, it's just one of those things where definitely check with your institutions as to, what it is their steps are and what their processes are. And, for all the advertising we see to get new banks or new credit cards or this or that, like, this is, if they're going to be difficult, like, this is a really good time to reevaluate or find a better custodian or institution to help you with those things. Maybe that's something we should do a little research into as we go through this series. Like, what are some of the better institutions in dealing with this stuff? I don't know. Elliott has for those of you not watching, Elliott has a very cringe-full face right there.
I definitely we've been in the industry, we've had a lot of calls for a variety of things. I will say there are certain institutions that are easier to work with than than others, but overwhelmingly when it comes to death and estate planning type things, I don't know if I'd give anybody an A+, to be honest with you. I haven't worked with everybody, but based on what I've read online and everything, like, it's rarely a super smooth experience. Let's put it that way.
That's fair.
Matt, you brought up a point, and I think we should probably touch on it here if you're okay with it, of why you might not want to make someone a joint account holder. Because I do find that that's often the default route that you might read online, like, hey, my person's getting older, they're not doing as well. Oh, just add yourself as a joint account holder. Don't do the DPA for finances, just add a joint.
Yeah, number one, that's a lot of control that you're giving to someone that maybe you don't want to give control to, because, like, you're still alive, right? Like, yeah, I don't know. That to me just seems like the extreme scenario. If, like, it's really your last resort, like, that's what you could do, but I don't know. I'd be careful. Like, I just haven't seen that go well. Like, and especially with, like, how prevalent, like, elder abuse is these days. Like, because even though estate planning's for everyone, like, typically I feel like that's more where this type of a scenario is going to come up. So whether it's your checking account or a credit card, like, you're really just creating a liability for yourself more than an asset or a protection mechanism. And I think it really defeats, like, the whole point of the document in the first place. The documents wouldn't exist if that's what we should do. That's my no nonsense answer right there.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And I think, like, there can be situations where that can apply, but it's few and far between and far less than what's recommended online. And just to give you some specific examples, like, if you make someone a joint account holder, is that now a gift to that person? Should you be filing a gift tax return? Do you need to now split the taxes on that? If enough interest is being paid out for that, how are you splitting that? More importantly, you brought up risk and liability. Let's say you're going through a divorce. That asset's now coming into the divorce picture because you own half of that. How will that get evaluated for income purposes, for alimony or that sort of thing? If you hit someone with your car and you're brought into a lawsuit, well, now that might be available. If you're doing any sort of Medicaid planning, that can be a challenge. So there's lots of different reasons that you wouldn't want to necessarily just automatically add yourself as a joint account holder. It's certainly easier at times, but it comes with more risks and more problems potentially.
Yeah. And I think that's true with just about anything that we're talking about in this series. Like, the easiest thing to do is probably going to create the most headaches for you in the future. For most of us, let's be real, it's do nothing and not get these documents done in the first place. But again, like, putting in the work to get it done right the first time. And, I do joke with my clients. Yes, we joke about death here. It really is one of the things where you only get one chance to do it right. Like, and you don't know when it's going to need to be implemented. Like, I sometimes I feel like the, Grim Reaper over here with my hood and, like, what if you get in a car accident next week? But you do have to think about those things, right? Like, they're not fun to think about, but that's why you should think about it, like, hard. Think about it hard for the next 6 months. If you don't have it in place, get it done, and then don't think about it for a while, because you shouldn't have to, unless, like Elliott said, a major life event happens that requires changes.
Yeah. And the DPA for finances is for you. I mean, it's for your loved ones too, to be able to step in. But more importantly, something went horribly wrong in your life. Now someone can step in to make that time a little bit easier for you. And so they can be there for other things.
And make sure your electric and water and things at home And Netflix too, staying on. So
yeah.
All right. I think that's a good note to end on, Elliott. Sorry, the rest of the series won't be as exhilarating for you with this being your favorite one, but great conversation today, and thanks for your input.
Thanks, Matt. You'll have to bring the energy for the healthcare.
I don't know about that, but I'll try.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Me and Money podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Have a question you'd like to suggest for a future episode? Drop Matt or Elliott a question at their email or use the linked form in the show notes. Like what you heard? It would be a tremendous help to us in our mission of having real conversations about personal finance by leaving us a review on your favorite podcast app. A few words can go a long way in connecting those looking for content like ours on their app of choice. You can also support the show by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Thanks again for listening, and be on the lookout for future episodes soon.
The Me and Money podcast is hosted and produced by Harmony Outsourcing Services LLC. Matt Fizell is an investment advisor representative of Harmony Wealth L.L.C. Elliott Appel is an investment advisor representative of Kindness Financial Planning LLC. However, the views and opinions expressed by Matt and Elliott in this podcast are not intended as individualized investment advice on behalf of Harmony or Kindness, or as tax, accounting, or legal advice. Although we gather information from sources that we deem to be reliable, we cannot guarantee the accuracy, timeliness, or completeness of any information prepared by any unaffiliated third party. When specific investments or types of investments are mentioned, such mention is not intended to be a recommendation or endorsement to buy or sell the specific investment. Harmony is a registered investment advisor authorized to do business in the states of Wisconsin and Texas and other jurisdictions where exempted. Kindness is a registered investment advisor authorized to do business in Wisconsin and Washington and in other jurisdictions where exempted. Registration as a registered investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. This website contains links to the Harmony and Kindness websites that provide general information about the advisory services offered by Harmony and Kindness. These links are provided as a convenience only. Harmony and Kindness can only provide individualized services after you sign an agreement and receive required disclosures. Users of this website may, but are not required to, engage the services of Harmony or Kindness for advisory services. Please remember that all investments involve varying degrees of risk, and the future performance of any specific investment or investment strategy is not guaranteed to be profitable or equal to any historical performances. As a final note, we'd encourage you to reach out to your financial professionals before implementing any of the strategies or concepts discussed in this podcast. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.